The GFS Verdant pulsed with soft emerald light as it drifted in high Earth orbit, its massive organic hull breathing like a living thing. Bioluminescent veins traced intricate patterns across its surface, pulsing in rhythm with the photosynthesis that powered the Xenthari research vessel. Inside the observation deck, Dr. Krellis Vex adjusted his flowing leaf. Like robes, his four-fingered hands manipulating the holographic display with practiced ease. "Fascinating," he murmured, his voice like rustling parchment. The hologram zoomed in on a patch of Earth's surface, a tangled sprawl of green overtaking cracked pavement. This species exhibits no photonic signaling, no chemical warfare defenses. How do they even compete? A chorus of clicking laughter echoed from his team. Xenthari scientists clustered around the display, their delicate fingers flicking through data streams. Their robes shimmered with subtle color shifts, broadcasting amusement. "Primitive," said Dr. Selthra, her voice dripping with condescension. She tapped the image of a dandelion pushing through concrete. "Look at this specimen. Brittle stem. No adaptive camouflage. It doesn't even try to hide from herbivores." Dr. Lisa Hayes stood near the back of the group, arms crossed. Her human frame looked almost comically solid next to the willowy Xenthari. She bit the inside of her cheek, forcing herself to stay silent as Krellis expanded the scan to show a field of kudzu swallowing an abandoned building. "Ah!" Krellis clapped his hands, the sound like dry leaves crunching. "This one at least shows some aggression. But look, no symbiotic defenses, no toxin secretion, just mindless growth." He shook his head, the fronds along his neck rippling in disappointment. "Earth's flora is unrefined." Lisa cleared her throat. "With all due respect, Doctor, those plants are classified as invasive for a reason." Krellis turned, his large pupil, less eyes blinking slowly. "Ah, our human liaison speaks." His tone was polite, but the way his robes dulled slightly told Lisa everything. He was humoring her. "By all means, enlighten us. What makes these weeds so concerning?" Lisa stepped forward, tapping the console to pull up a new dataset. "Dandelions. Their roots can fracture concrete. They spread by wind, animals, even human clothing. Kudzu grows a foot a day, smothers everything in its path, and bamboo." She zoomed in on a towering grove. "That's nature's steel, grows faster than you can burn it." The Xenthari exchanged glances, their robes flickering with muted colors, amusement, skepticism. "Adorable," Selthra said, patting Lisa's shoulder like a child who'd just presented a crude drawing. "You think speed and strength matter, but where is the intelligence? The strategy? Our plants communicate, they adapt, they think." Lisa's jaw tightened. "Ours survive." Krellis waved a dismissive hand. "Enough debate. We will collect samples, run proper analysis." He gestured to the team. "Prepare the landing pod. I want specimens from each of these quaint invaders." Lisa opened her mouth to protest, but the Xenthari were already gliding toward the extraction bay, their robes fluttering with excitement. She tapped her earpiece. "A's to command," she muttered. "They're taking samples against advisement." A crackling voice responded. "Copy that. Stand by for containment protocols if needed." Lisa watched as the scientists loaded delicate containment units, designed for fragile, civilized flora, not for Earth's weeds, not for the survivors. One of the junior researchers, a young Xenthari named Vrix, hesitated near a display of Earth's botanical history. "Doctor," he asked, pointing, "these records show human attempts to eradicate these species for centuries. Without success, should we—" Krellis laughed, a sound like wind through dead branches. "Because humans lack finesse, Vrix. We will show them how true botanists handle pests." Lisa exhaled slowly, watching the landing pod detach and streak toward Earth's surface. They have no idea what they're bringing on board. The greenhouse lab hummed with artificial sunlight, its sterile white walls lined with rows of Earth's most notorious flora. Dr. Krellis Vex floated through the aisles, his leaf-like robes brushing against the containment units. His delicate photosynthetic fingers traced the edge of a dandelion's pot, his bioluminescent veins pulsing with disdain. "This?" Krellis scoffed, his voice a melodic ripple of condescension. "This is what your species fears, a fragile stem and a pathetic yellow bloom." Behind him, his Xenthari team murmured in agreement, their robes shimmering with amusement. Dr. Lisa Hayes crossed her arms, leaning against a support beam. She watched as the aliens prodded the dandelion with their slender tools, their movements precise, clinical, and utterly ignorant. "You don't understand," Lisa said, keeping her tone neutral. "That pathetic bloom is just the beginning." Krellis' central eye, stalk swiveled toward her, his bioluminescence flickering in a pattern Lisa had come to recognize as smug superiority. "Beginning of what, Dr. Hayes? Your plants lack even basic chemical signaling. They don't communicate. They don't adapt. They are inert." One of the junior researchers, a Xenthari named Silis, plucked a seed head from the dandelion. He held it up, examining the delicate white filaments. "It's almost cute," he said, his voice laced with amusement. "Like a child's toy." Lisa's jaw tightened. "Put that down." Silis ignored her, rolling the seed head between his fingers. "What's it going to do? Whisper insults at me." The other Xenthari laughed, their bioluminescence flashing in synchronized ripples of mockery. Lisa exhaled slowly, counting to 3 in her head. She'd been through this before. Every first contact team underestimated Earth's flora, every single one. Krellis moved to the next specimen, kudzu, its vines coiled tightly in a reinforced containment box. He tapped the transparent lid, his fingertips leaving faint phosphorescent marks on the surface. "And this another terror of your world. That one's worse," Lisa said. Krellis waved a dismissive hand. "It's a vine. We have thousands of species like it in the Xenthari jungles. Ours sing to each other. They form symbiotic networks. This," he gestured at the kudzu, "it's just green." Lisa pushed off the beam and stepped closer. "Your vines don't grow a foot a day. They don't strangle entire ecosystems. And they sure as hell don't learn." The Xenthari exchanged glances. Silis snorted. "Learning plants don't learn, Dr. Hayes. That's absurd." Lisa didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. She slid it across the lab table toward Krellis. "Footage from the Brazilian containment breach. Faye, watch it before you open that box." Krellis picked up the chip between 2 delicate fingers, his bioluminescence flickering with curiosity. He inserted it into his wrist projector, and a hologram bloomed above his arm. A time lapse of kudzu, engulfing an entire research facility in under a week. Vines punched through concrete, roots split reinforced steel. By day 7, the building was just a green mound. Silis' laughter died in his throat. "That's impossible," Krellis murmured. Lisa smirked. "And that was before we figured out it reacts to heat." The Xenthari fell silent for the first time since their arrival, their bioluminescence dimmed, their confidence wavering. Krellis straightened his robes, regaining his composure. "A fascinating adaptation, but hardly a threat to us. Our technology is beyond your primitive countermeasures." Lisa shrugged. "Sure, just remember, you were warned." Krellis motioned to his team. "Collect samples, full spectrum analysis. I want to understand these weeds." The Xenthari moved with renewed purpose, their earlier mockery replaced by scientific detachment. Silis carefully extracted a clipping of kudzu, sealing it in a biocontainer. Another researcher, a senior botanist named Vexis, approached the bamboo specimen at the far end of the lab. "Now this," Vexis said, running a finger along the bamboo's segmented stalk, "is impressive structure, rigid, ordered, almost engineered. Lisa's eyes narrowed. "Don't tap it." Vexis ignored her, rapping his knuckles against the bamboo's surface. A deep, resonant thrum echoed through the lab. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the bamboo twitched. Vexis jerked his hand back, his bioluminescence flaring in alarm. Did it just move?" Lisa sighed. "Yeah, it does that." Krellis hurried over, his robes fluttering. "Nonsense, plants don't have musculature. They can't move like that." The bamboo shuddered again, its segments shifting almost imperceptibly. The Xenthari stumbled back, their confidence crumbling. Lisa crossed her arms. "You keep saying that word. Can't on Earth. Can't just means hasn't yet." Krellis swallowed, his bioluminescence pulsing erratically. For the first time, Lisa saw it, doubt. Fear, the dawning realization that they were in over their heads. "Samples are secured," Silas announced, his voice unsteady. "We should return to the ship." Krellis nodded stiffly. "Yes, the Verdant's labs are better equipped for this." Lisa watched as they hurried out, their earlier arrogance replaced by something far more satisfying. Unease, she waited until the airlock hissed shut behind them before tapping her earpiece. Haze to command, they took the samples. A pause, then a dry chuckle crackled over the comm. "Told you they would. Initiate protocol green thumb." Lisa grinned. Initiate. Outside, the Xenthari shuttle lifted off, carrying Earth's most persistent survivors into the heart of their ship. Lisa almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The sterile lab aboard the GFS Verdant hummed with the gentle pulse of Xenthari biotech, its walls lined with glowing nutrient veins that pulsed like slow, contented heartbeats. Dr. Krellis Vex adjusted his leaf, like robes with delicate fingers, his photosynthetic skin flickering with amusement as he observed the human weed contained within the transparent growth pod. The dandelion sat innocently in its artificial soil, its yellow bloom bright against the muted greens and blues of Xenthari technology. "Observe," Krellis said to his team, his voice dripping with condescension. "This is what humans consider a problem plant. No chemical signaling, no defensive toxins, just fragility." The other Xenthari botanists murmured in agreement, their bioluminescent patterns shifting in waves of derisive greens. Only Lisa Hayes stood apart, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. She had warned them repeatedly. "Begin the stress test," Krellis ordered. A junior scientist, Telris, tapped a sequence into the pod's control panel. The atmosphere inside shifted, oxygen levels dropped, moisture spiked, the dandelion trembled slightly. Krellis' mandibles twitched in satisfaction. As predicted, no resilience. No, the pod cracked. Not from outside force, from within. The dandelion's bloom detonated in a silent burst of white fluff, 1,000 seeds rocketing outward in a storm of feather-light projectiles. They peppered the containment field, slipped through microscopic gaps in the seals, and embedded themselves in the ship's organic ventilation system. Silence. Then, contamination alert. The ship's AI voice was calm, but the words sent the Xenthari into immediate panic. "Foreign biomass detected in primary life support conduits." Krellis whirled on Lisa. "What is this?" Lisa didn't move. "Reproduction." Terrace rushed to a scanner, his photosynthetic skin flashing frantic red. "The seeds. They're germinating. Roots are forming in the vents." The ship shuddered. A distant, wet crunch echoed through the walls as something fibrous forced its way through the Verdant's living infrastructure. The Xenthari stumbled, their delicate balance disrupted as the floor beneath them moved. "Seal the lab." Krellis barked, too late. A thin, white tendril punched through a ceiling vent, dangling like a grotesque umbilical cord. Then another. The roots thickened, splitting the vent seams with audible pops. Lisa finally stepped forward, her voice calm. You stressed it, so it adapted. Krellis fronds stood rigid with horror. Plants don't adapt this fast. Lisa tilted her head. Ours do. The ship groaned. A section of the wall bulged inward, the bioluminescent veins darkening as something beneath the surface consumed them. The roots were spreading. Fast. Telris yelped as a root lashed out like a whip, wrapping around his forearm. He jerked back, but the root held, tiny fibrous hairs digging into his skin. It's anchoring. Lisa moved to the comm panel. Earth command. This is haze. We have a code. Green. Repeat. Code green. A human voice crackled back. Copy that, containment team en route. Try not to let them scream on open channels. Bad for diplomacy. Krellis wasn't listening. He was staring at the dandelion's remnants, now just a shredded stem in the ruined pod. His voice was barely a whisper. This is a weed. Lisa didn't smile, but her eyes held something dark, something knowing. Wait until you see the kudzu. The ship screamed around them. The alarms shrieked through the GFS verdant like a dying animal. Krellis Vex stumbled back as the kudzu sample in the containment pod twitched, its vines previously dormant, now pulsed with unnatural energy. The ship's organic walls trembled as if sensing the threat. Seal the lab, Krellis barked, his leaf-like robes fluttering as he scrambled toward the door. Two junior botanists, their photosynthetic skin paling to a sickly yellow, slammed their appendages against the control panel. The bio-seal hissed shut, just as the first vine slammed against the transparent barrier. Lisa Hayes watched from the observation deck, her arms crossed. The Xenthari had ignored every warning. Now their ship was being eaten alive. Inside the lab, the kudzu reacted to the heat of the Xenthari's panic. Their species regulated temperature through photosynthetic respiration. Warmth meant distress. The plant knew. Initiate sterilization protocol. Krellis ordered, mandibles clicking frantically. A junior scientist activated the thermal purge. Jets of superheated gas flooded the lab. The kudzu vines blackened, then exploded outward, growing 3 times thicker where the heat touched them. Lisa's radio crackled. Dr. Hayes, we've got root systems breaching deck face neural lattice. Holy shit. They're rewiring the life support. She didn't answer below. The kudzu had begun singing. A low subsonic vibration thrummed through the ship's organic infrastructure. The Xenthari clutched their auditory receptors, their delicate membranes quivering. What is that? Krellis screamed. Lisa finally keyed her comm. That's kudzu, Earth's version of a war chant. The vines weren't just growing. They were communicating. One of the junior scientists collapsed as a tendril speared through the bioseal, wrapping around his leg. The kudzu didn't pull him in. It analyzed him, thin filaments burrowing into his exoskeleton. His skin flashed panic, blue before going dark. Cut it off. Krellis lunged with a laser scalpel, severing the vine. The severed end writhed, then sprouted teeth. Lisa's console beeped. The ship's AI, its voice garbled, as the kudzu infiltrated its systems, managed one broken sentence. Foreign biomass now constitutes Fey of structural integrity. Primary life support compromised. Krellis whirled on Lisa, his bioluminescence flickering like a dying star. You knew this would happen. Lisa shrugged. I told you, kudzu doesn't just grow, it conquers. A shudder rocked the ship. The main viewing screen flickered, displaying deck Fey. The walls were moving, not buckling, breathing. The kudzu had fused with the ship's nervous system, turning the verdant into a grotesque hybrid. One of the Xenthari whimpered. It's learning our technology. Lisa's radio crackled again. Hayes, we've got Defiance en route. 8 or 6 minutes. Try not to let them die before we get there. She glanced at Krellis. The proud botanist was on his knees, his robes torn, staring at the vines now creeping across the ceiling. You call them weeds, Lisa said softly, but on Earth, they're the ones that won. The lights failed. In the dark, the kudzu glowed, a sickly, hungry green. The GFS verdant shuddered as another section of its organic hull split open. Bioluminescent fluid sprayed from ruptured veins in the ceiling, casting eerie green light over the panicked Xenthari scientists. Dr. Krellis Vex clung to a pulsating wall node, his leaf-like robes torn where kudzu vines had lashed at him. Across the lab, the bamboo sample they'd dismissed as structurally primitives began to creak ominously. "Containment breach on deck, Faye," shrieked a junior botanist, her fronds flaring crimson with panic. "The specimen is—" The bamboo pole exploded upward like a missile. It punched through the lab's spongy ceiling, then down through the floor in a shower of splintered organic matter. A Xenthari researcher screamed as a bamboo shoot speared through his thorax, pinning him to the wall like a specimen. Lisa Hayes grabbed Krellis by his robe collar just before a second shoot would have taken his head off. "I told you about containment protocols," she shouted over the ship's wailing alarms. Krellis's bioluminescence flickered between terror and disbelief. "This violates every botanical principle. Plants don't attack." A new sound cut through the chaos, a deep rhythmic thumping from below decks. The bamboo grove was expanding, its rhizomes tunneling through the ship's neural network with terrifying precision. Every impact made the floor undulate like living tissue. Lisa tapped her earpiece. "Defiance, this is Hayes. We need extraction now." Static crackled before a calm human voice responded. "Copy that, Dr. Eta. 90 seconds. Might want to warn our leafy friends about—" The entire ship lurched. A 3-meter long bamboo pole erupted through the lab's central console, barely missing Lisa's shoulder. It quivered in place, then bloomed razor, edged leaves that began systematically shredding nearby equipment. Krellis made a sound no Xenthari throat should produce. It is hunting our systems." Lisa kicked open an emergency panel, revealing a stash of human-made herbicide grenades. "Your people study photosynthesis and symbiotic networks," she said, arming 2 canisters. "Earth's plants evolved in war zones." She tossed the grenades. Purple foam engulfed the nearest bamboo cluster, making it writhe like a speared animal. The Xenthari scientists recoiled as the plants emitted high-pitched screeches, a sound no one had ever recorded from vegetation. "Deck Faye reports complete structural collapse," cried a comms officer, his fronds shedding panic pheromones. "The roots are breaching the engine core." Lisa grabbed Krellis's trembling hand and pressed a plasma torch into it. "Cut or burn anything that moves, and don't assume something's harmless, because it looks green and leafy." A new tremor rocked the ship. The wall behind them bulged inward as something enormous forced its way through. Krellis's bioluminescence flatlined to pure white, the Xenthari equivalent of pissing yourself. The bamboo had grown together. What emerged wasn't a plant anymore, but a monster, a woven construct of fused stalks forming something disturbingly close to a skeletal hand. It reached for them with creaking fingers. Lisa didn't hesitate. She slapped a mining charge onto the abomination and shoved Krellis toward the exit. "Run!" The explosion sent them tumbling into the hallway. Behind them, the bamboo creature thrashed as flames consumed it, letting out that same unearthly scream. The sound made the Xenthari scientists clutch their auditory organs in agony. Lisa hauled Krellis upright. "Now you understand," she panted. "Dandelions, urban guerrilla fighters, kudzu, ecosystem conquerors, bamboo." She glanced back at the burning lab. "Natcha's fucking bayonets." Alarms howled as the Verdant's AI announced catastrophic failure in 17 systems. Somewhere below, the bamboo had reached the engines. The ship groaned like a dying animal. Krellis stared at Lisa with newfound horror. You cultivate these?" Lisa's grin was all teeth. "Oh, this is just the stuff that grows wild. Wait until you see what we've bred." The ceiling collapsed. They barely made it to the escape pods before the bamboo finished what it started. The GFS Verdant ruptured down its spine, spilling oxygen and screaming Xenthari into the void. As the pods launched, Lisa watched through the viewport. Vines already curled through the wreckage, reaching for the stars. Earth's weeds had found new soil. The GFS Verdant shuddered as another support beam cracked under the relentless assault of Earth's flora. Bioluminescent sap oozed from the walls where bamboo shoots had speared through the ship's organic infrastructure. Dr. Krellis Vex clutched a ruptured vine to his chest, his leaf-like robe stained with chlorophyll and something darker. Fia Lisa Hayes stood amid the chaos, her boots planted firmly on the deck as kudzu vines slithered past her ankles. She tapped her wrist comm. "Defiance, this is Hayes. We've got a full breach on decks 3 through 7. Neutralization protocol is a go." A Xenthari scientist, his frilled neck quivering, grabbed her arm. "You knew this would happen." Lisa didn't flinch. "I warned you," repeatedly. Outside the viewports, the sleek grey hull of the USN Defiance locked into position alongside the stricken alien vessel. Its bay doors slid open, revealing rows of armored engineers in hazard suits. They moved with practiced efficiency, deploying canisters that hissed as they released a thick, blue-tinged foam. Krellis staggered to the window. "What is that?" "Bioneutralizer," Lisa said. "We developed it after the kudzu wars of Fae. Stops aggressive plant growth in seconds." As the foam spread across the Verdant's hull, the writhing vines stiffened, then crumbled into dust. Inside the ship, the bamboo stalks piercing the ceiling sagged, their razor-sharp tips dulling as the neutralizer seeped into their roots. A human engineer in a black and yellow hazard suit stepped through the breached airlock, his helmet visor reflecting the dim emergency lights. "Mom, we've got the main infestation contained. Secondary sweep in progress." Lisa nodded. "Good. Let's get their life support back online before the oxygen runs out." Krellis watched in stunned silence as the humans worked. They didn't hesitate, didn't consult manuals. They just acted, slicing through vines with plasma cutters and sealing ruptures with quick hardening sealant. One engineer even laughed as he pried a dandelion root from a control panel. Classic Earth always finds a way. The Xenthari botanist turned to Lisa, his voice trembling. How do you live with these things?" Lisa crossed her arms. "We don't live with them, Krellis. We survive them. Every weed on Earth is a veteran of a war you can't even imagine. Dandelions, they evolved to crack concrete. Kudzu, it smothered entire forests in months. Bamboo." She kicked a withered stalk, grows a meter a day and sharpens itself. A vine snaps somewhere in the darkness. The Xenthari flinched. The humans didn't even look up. Krellis swallowed hard. "You treat them like enemies." Lisa's smile was thin. "Because they are." "And we won." The Defiance's captain strode in, her boots clicking against the foam. "Coated deck situation report, Hayes." "Contained, Captain Vance, just like we drilled." Vance nodded, then turned to Krellis. "Your ship will be operational in 6 hours. I suggest you revise your botanical classifications before you leave orbit." Krellis' frills flattened against his neck. "We will. I apologize for our ignorance." Lisa shook her head. "Don't apologize. Just learn. Earth doesn't have harmless plants. It has survivors." Outside, the last of the foam hardened, leaving the Verdant scarred but intact. The Xenthari crew huddled together, their luminescent patterns dim with shock. One of them whispered, "If their plants do this, what do their predators look like?" Lisa heard it. She didn't answer. Some lessons were better learned the hard way. The observation chamber of the Galactic Federation Council was silent as the holographic display flickered to life. The assembled delegates from 100 species leaned forward in their adaptive seating. Their various sensory organs focused on the projection. The image showed the GFS Verdant, or what remained of it. The once pristine organic vessel now resembled a derelict husk, its bioluminescent veins choked by thick tendrils of kudzu, its hull punctured by bamboo spears that had grown straight through its photosynthetic armor. Dr. Krellis Vex stood at the center of the chamber, his leaf-like robes torn and stained with the remnants of neutralizing foam. His antennae twitched erratically, a telltale sign of distress among the Xenthari. Behind him, the surviving members of his team huddled together, their once proud postures now hunched in exhaustion. "This," Krellis said, his voice trembling, "is what remains of our expedition to study Earth's flora." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Vespidian delegate, her exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights, clicked her mandibles in disbelief. "You expect us to believe plants did this?" Lisa Hayes, standing at the human delegation's table, crossed her arms. She hadn't been invited to speak, but she didn't need to be. The footage playing across the hologram was evidence enough. The dandelions seeding themselves into the ship's ventilation, the kudzu reacting to fire by growing faster. The bamboo sample, labeled harmless in their initial reports, splintering through reinforced bulkheads like they were paper. "The humans warned us," Krellis admitted, his voice barely audible. "They told us their flora required containment protocols. We ignored them." The Ceralian ambassador, a floating orb of shifting colors, pulsed with agitation. "This is beyond natural evolution. No species develops such aggressive symbiosis without external influence." Lisa couldn't help it. She laughed, a short, sharp sound that cut through the tension like a knife. Every alien eye in the chamber turned toward her. The chamber erupted. The Thorian delegates, their gelatinous forms quivering, emitted distress pheromones. The Zephyrian warlords, their armored hides bristling, demanded immediate sanctions against Earth. The Vespidian Science Council called for a full quarantine of Sol System flora. Only the Octavian ambassador, her tentacles coiled in quiet contemplation, remained still. "This changes everything," she said at last. "If their plants exhibit such adaptability, such hostility, what does that say about the humans themselves?" Lisa met her gaze. "It says we've spent our entire history surviving things that would have wiped your species out before you invented the wheel." The hologram flickered again, zooming in on the final moments of the GFS Verdant's infestation. The kudzu had infiltrated the ship's neural network, rerouting life support to fuel its own growth. The bamboo had pierced the core reactor, forcing an emergency shutdown. The dandelion seeds had embedded themselves so deeply into the organic hull that the ship's own immune system began attacking itself in a futile attempt to purge them. "You came to study our weeds," Lisa said, her voice calm. "But here's the thing about Earth's flora. They don't just grow. They adapt. They fight back. And if you're not prepared for that," she nodded toward Krellis, "well, you've seen what happens." The Octavian ambassador turned to the Federation High Chancellor, a towering crystalline entity whose facets reflected the chaos of the chamber. "This cannot be ignored. We must reassess our classification of Terran biology." The Chancellor's voice resonated through the chamber, a deep harmonic hum that silenced all dissent. "The findings are clear. Earth's flora exhibits traits beyond any known natural species. Effective immediately, all Terran plant matter is to be classified as a Tier Phi biohazard." A new label flashed across the hologram, superimposed over images of Earth's forests, fields, and even the carefully cultivated gardens of human settlements. Tier Phi biohazard, extreme adaptive threat. Krellis stared at the label, his antennae drooping. "We thought we were the superior botanists," he murmured. "But your plants, They were studying us the entire time. Lisa allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Now you're getting it. As the chamber dissolved into frantic debates over containment protocols and planetary quarantines, the human delegation remained silent. They didn't need to argue. The evidence spoke for itself. The final image lingered on the hologram. A single dandelion, its seeds drifting lazily in zero gravity, settling into the cracks of the GFS Verdant's ruined hull. "If their plants do this," whispered a Superior scientist, his claws trembling, "what else are they hiding?"